Okay, we're continuing with our understanding of spheres and planes. Again, the definition of the plane is through the shoulders, through the hips, and then any screw axis is generative. I love screw axes and I love working on spheres. I love the fact that you can take a sphere and wrap it around any person and move any direction. So don't always think about motion as being in a single one direction as you start going. It's very easy to do this type of a thing. Starting one sphere this way, and wrapping a sphere this way, and coming across this way, and diagonal. I mean, I can just wrap the spheres continually around my opponent so that I can get the needed effect that I'm desiring, which is usually death.
Yeah.
Other than that, again, when an opponent or when you're starting off a fight and you're the one that's to begin it off and you're getting ready to spar somebody, I mean, I doubt that he would stand like that if he's really fighting. Circle, turn sideways. Yeah. So if he's really fighting, he's going to be in this type of motion. I always try to make sure that my visual focus is not just dead on, like just looking in the eyes or looking at, I try to look, I mean, I'll look at the head because I can read a lot of emotion from the opponent just based upon face. You can see little glints of where they may focus their attention, where they may look. But I'm looking at body balance, I'm looking at foot position, I'm looking at whether or not he's got one foot. You'll find some opponents will get ready and they'll be like this. They'll have their foot way back, and so you know that they're planning on coming with some sort of stupid spin kick, which you really are grateful for. Wrong direction, that's even slower.
I know.
So you watch those things of body balance. When I come in for an attack, it's almost always a multi-positional attack. I don't just do one thing. If I just came in with one single hit, I mean, depending upon who it is, it may make me vulnerable in terms of what I'm trying to do. So I always look at doing something to collapse or alter the radius of the sphere that he can define by his position. In other words, if I push his hand inward and if I take his leg in, he's already restricted to his radius being a lot tighter now. He's already been forced in, even though what I basically did was pretty much just a linear hit with this and then a rotation. Okay, what if I change it so that my motion now is very much spherical? So I'm doing this type of a thing.
Do you want me to move down more with it?
No, it's okay. So in this particular case, I am going around, I'm defining my sphere, and it's intersecting his spine. That's what I want. I want it to be intersecting his spine and then follow through. I can take it and rotate that sphere through and continue. Rather than being left to just the common distance that you have of arm extension. I always try to take my energy, I want to take his energy and my energy and collapse it into his spine. If I do that, then I have full control. If I want to project beyond his spine, that's where neck breaks are. That's where back breaks are. What I've really done is take the energy and I've driven it beyond his spine. If I just want to collapse, I keep the energy within the spine. I take it this way.
Oh, wow.
So that completes, that basically is the logic behind how you want to attack. You need to define in your mind where you want that person to end up. Do you want that person dead? First of all, what condition do you want him in? Do you want him dead? Do you want him, severely wounded so he can't come after you? Knocked out, passed out? Do you want to just teach him a lesson, or do you want to tick him off enough so that he comes after you? That type of a thing. And then just step back, and then just keep running. So if you want that person, depending upon the action you want that person to have, for example, you may actually want this person, as I mentioned before, you may have another opponent, and you may want this person because maybe his body position is not right where you want it, and you don't want to have to move him because maybe this guy's coming too quickly. Maybe you want this guy to be the guy that hits that guy. And it can be sometimes executed as easily as, say you're up ready for a fight, and I do something like this, and he can come back with a backhand, or you can take his hand and swing it around and hit the person that's coming at you with this person's own energy.
A bit of a gamble, that's assuming this guy even knows enough to do a backhand.
Well, or I could just, if we just start out in a fight stance and I just do that, okay?
There you go.
I may want to take his energy and keep it on a radial motion use him as part of the sphere, but let him be the weapon.
Especially if he keeps me going down this way, I
Yeah,
can just be a roadblock for that guy.
Exactly. So it's very important to know who you are fighting, how many you're fighting, and who you're going to ultimately want to hit or take down. Okay, Logan, you asked a question about projection of spheres, particularly with your opponent, or if your opponent's, I don't know, coming at you with a sphere. If he's coming at you with a sphere, again, you can control it by using that sphere that he's already defined. Remember, the definition of his sphere is from the center of his spine to wherever his appendage is, okay? Whether it's a staff, it'd be at the end of a staff, or a sword. If it's his hands, fingertips are basically the edge of his sphere. When you talk about projection of spheres, what I try to do, I mean, you don't want to just, as I mentioned to you, you don't want to just lead with your chin, because you tend to get hit that way. So you want to control your sphere such that you know where you are moving. You want to make that sphere cross through your opponent in one form or another. It could be on his edge. For instance, if he's doing this type of a motion, he's coming at me with some sort of a defiant, I can go on his radial sphere and pull it in then onto my sphere and wrap and completely change his energy and pull him back onto my sphere. If I'm going to project my sphere into him, what I usually try to do if he's getting ready to fight or whatever, what I try to do is take my sphere so that it is, again, crossing through him in one form or another. Cross change and pull it this way, just break. Again, just taking it on my sphere. So projections can also be a whole lot faster than that. You can say, okay, I want to take my radial distance and bring it down to 0 very quickly. You can be prepared. Here's your sphere, right? We practice these figure eights. You're able to take this motion as the person comes through, right? And you're just right in on the person. I hope I didn't hurt you.
You didn't? No,
Okay. So you just come in very quickly right into the sphere, and I'm changing my defined radius. I'm bringing it in tighter and tighter, so I'm with him. Once I'm right with him, my radius is literally right as tight as I want. I can wrap it right in through and on him and compress that energy right downward. Okay, so a question was just raised that Liz pointed out, who's doing a recording for us, about what if the opponent is executing this big sphere, or he's executing this sphere, and how would I compensate with that type of motion? Well, first of all, remember his energy is way out, and we did a few things. So I can move along his sphere. I can go into a linear motion and just drive in tighter. Really, what I want to do, I mean, seeing how we're talking about spheres, is my linear motion, as I've said before. I mean, a lot of that's tangential energy to the sphere. So he may come up with some sort of hit. My sweep is tangential to him, and then I can drive in very linearly, or at this point, take his radius and pull him inward. Pull his arms in, pull his legs in, pull his sweeps in, ready down, hit, and finish the opponent. So it can be a very, very tight compression. Again, you need to read your opponent. What's the distance away? A person can throw a very rapid spin kick or hook kick or whatever it is. Well, you need to project. Sometimes it can be very fast when a person throws a hip. Okay? And I just take this energy. In my case, because he was coming up this way, it seemed like the perfect thing to me was I was going to come through, I had his groin, and I was just going to wrap his energy this way. So I was taking all of his rotational energy on his sphere that was almost in a horizontal plane, and I was turning it into a vertical motion. So just taking his energy to wrap it right in tight for a neck break and take down.